My goal is to really help you with your on-site issues regarding waste reduction, recycling, food waste issues, what to do with employee training, how to get that employee buy-in and reduce that pushback that a lot of managers are so accustomed to, and just to really give you some insights regarding what we can do on an immediate basis, and then maybe some long-term strategies for you to implement further down the road. Of course, I understand that businesses need these types of strategies, but that also has to go through an approval process and get the funding and all of that. So this is kind of just an initial discussion to where we can help you identify your problems there on site at your business, as well as give you some short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategies, and to help you, get that bang for your buck, so that you can go to your supervisors and say, hey, we need to get this underway right now. So if you're just joining us, go ahead and drop your name and where you're joining us from into the chat. So maybe you can also tell us what your role is at your company and which company that you work for, if you feel like that's appropriate to divulge. I'm not sure if that's something that you do want to reveal, but if you do, we can understand a little bit better what industry you're in. So maybe just drop your industry if you're not comfortable with announcing which company that you work for. That's fine too. So as these names start coming up, we can go ahead and welcome people in. So I see we have John from the Austin area. Thank you for joining, John. And we do have Suzanne, I believe. And Suzanne, I see that you're from Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you so much for joining in, Suzanne. And do you feel comfortable, Suzanne, telling us what company you work for, or maybe what industry you're in?
I'm with Kyndryl.
Kyndryl, and what
Yes.
what kind of company industry is that?
IT services.
IT services. Okay, so you guys have, I guess, office spaces, admin spaces, and a lot of
and data centers.
Data centers. Yes, that's what I was just about to say. So thank you for jumping in there. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is just really quickly give a little introduction. So I'm Stacy Savage, and I'm the CEO and founder of Zero Waste Strategies. We're an environmental consulting firm, and we specialize in waste reduction through, of course, reuse, recycling, food waste, composting, donations, all kinds of strategies that we can use to keep materials out of the landfill, or maybe out of the incinerator, based on where you live. Some communities use incineration instead of landfilling. So at least here in Texas, I'm in the Austin area, we've got almost 200 active landfills across our state. So we generate a lot of materials, and we take in waste from other cities and states as well. So Zero Waste Strategies provides empowering employee training. We help companies drive competitive green marketing edge, and we've worked with companies like Dell, AT&T, Apple, Nestle, Purina, Kohler, Boston University, and even municipalities like the city of Austin. So my goals for this particular training session is to provide education and loads of value to those on this live or watching the recording who are interested in green operations for their business through waste reduction. I'd also like to connect with you all here on LinkedIn, because you obviously have an interest in these topics. So if you do want to connect with someone like me, who has been a total recycling nerd for the past 20 years, go ahead and let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm going to drop my profile link to my personal page in the chat box. And if you're interested, after you connect with me on my personal page, you can hop on over to our business page, which is Zero Waste Strategies, and connect with our business page there. That's where we post these live videos, as well as blog content all around zero waste, waste reduction, recycling, business strategies, cost savings, and more. So we want to give you those updates, cool tips, tricks, hacks for home and business life, all focused around waste reduction. So let me just get some common definitions out of the way so that we make sure we're all kind of understanding and following the conversation. And of course, if there is anything that I do mention, maybe it's an acronym that you're not familiar with, go ahead and raise your hand or put something in the chat box like, hey, can you explain what you just meant by X, Y, and Z? So that we can kind of go back and make sure that everybody is following along up to speed on the definitions that we use and maybe some of the acronyms. So just a common definition, what is zero waste? It's a philosophy that aims to minimize waste generation by redesigning products, processes, and systems to eliminate or reduce waste. So it's leading to more sustainable and efficient operations. And it's really measured by achieving 90% or more waste diversion from landfills and incinerators. Thousands of businesses are already doing this, as well as city governments around the world, and they're implementing these business strategies to optimize their operations and their contracts, like with haulers, to move closer to the zero waste goal each and every year. So now that we've got some of those common foundational knowledge and definitions shared between us, I'd like to go ahead and just open the floor for some questions. We can discuss things like, why is zero waste important? Or where do I start on zero waste programming? How can I get my employees on board? There's a lot of ways that this particular discussion can go, but that's going to depend on your questions. So I can really just let you guys decide where to take it. You can either type your questions into the chat box, or you can just use the raise your hand function in the toolbar, or unmute yourself and you can just ask the question verbally as well. So I will go ahead and open the floor. So whoever has a question, you can go ahead and start now. Suzanne or John, did you have a question?
I don't have any questions. You know, we are working on our net zero strategy now. So I think we have a pretty good handle on the strategy itself. It's just the tools to get there that we're still working through.
Yeah. Yeah, the tools are really crucial and important for consistency throughout an entire organization. So that's great that you guys are pushing for your net zero goals. And let me ask you, Suzanne, what kind of waste mitigation programs do you already implement? And are there any, strategies that you feel may be missing that we can go over?
You know, we're following the waste hierarchy. So, you know, really focusing on reducing what we can. We have some recycling programs in place for our electronic waste as well as our others, you know, like plastics and papers and things. So, and we have a good partner in the data centers to accomplish some of this. But I mean, there's always room for improvement. And so really looking into our general waste streams and identifying there what can be recycled and what is being missed. I see that's the biggest area for our improvement.
Yeah, and that's great. I love that you guys already have these programs set up and that it's just becoming a part of your cultural norm within the corporation, right? People are just onboarded and it's just kind of the thing you do. But there's a lot of times businesses will focus on the recycling aspect, and they're saying, okay, well, we're going to get as much into the recycling bin as we possibly can, but whenever that happens, there also happens to be, most of the time, a lot of contamination, cross-contamination. So food waste getting into the recycling bin that doesn't belong, or trash, thin, stretchy plastic films like, grocery checkout bags that, yeah, they're made of plastic, but they're probably not accepted in the local recycling processor's plant, right? So making sure that there's proper education for all employees and that they're following along the program so that they're not putting that contamination in the bin. Another thing that businesses miss is what happens to the recyclables and the food waste that end up into the trash. Those are non-captured, very valuable, highly valuable materials like your cardboard and your metals and your plastics. So there's two sides of the coin for your trash, and then another two sides of the coin with your waste diversion, like recycling and composting. It's on one side, it's what's getting into the trash bin properly, and then what is being lost because it wasn't captured in the recycling and the food waste bins. And then vice versa on the other side with your diversion programs, the cross contamination getting in there is the trash and the food waste and the recycling and the food waste. And so there's a lot of mismanagement sometimes when people just get a little confused and then they're like, I just need to get to my next appointment, right? And they just want to throw it wherever, and they're maybe get a little frustrated. Yep. Or embarrassed, right? They're not operating at the bin system with confidence. And
right, or wish cycling. Yep.
Yeah, so they're wish cycling. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like I hope this is the right bin. Right. So that all comes down to proper education and making sure that that they're onboarded properly and that they've even got there's even ways that management can leverage the personnel policies as well. With a previous corporation that I worked with in St. Louis, they had a safety protocol and they would do safety meetings every month. But they didn't have anything as far as protocols regarding waste diversion, and they didn't have anyone. They didn't, sponsor any monthly meetings. They didn't put near enough time and energy and effort into training how to divert waste properly based on the system that the company had set up. So my suggestion was let's put, at least half the effort into training people how to divert their materials properly so that we can get higher quality materials that the recyclers don't have to landfill contaminated recycling, and that the business can uh, show its recycling rate and how we're inching up year on year. We're increasing that recycling rate, and that's something that you can use in green marketing. So if you've got a high contamination rate, you can't really market that as a good thing. But if you've got a strong recycling rate or a food diversion rate that you can trumpet, that's something that you can use in order to recruit top tier talent, especially your younger millennials and your Gen Zers who are coming up, and they are aligned with environmental, social, and economic justice issues. This is something that you can use in a green marketing strategy to recruit those that top tier talent that aligns with their core values around the green initiatives that your company is employing there. So it kind of all fits like a little puzzle, and it goes way further beyond just recycling bin and what's ending up in your food waste bin and is there recycling in the trash. It becomes a recruitment tool, it becomes a green marketing tool to edge out the competition in your industry too, as well. It becomes talking points when you go out and speak to trade associations or industry organizations that support your specific business industry, and letting them know that, hey, we're doing A, B, and C, and we're getting X, Y, and Z as the results. And our employee retention has skyrocketed because we've implemented these programs, and now they feel like they're a part of the solution. So I feel like that, it kind of, the recycling piece is the drop in the bucket, and everything just ripples out beyond that, and it becomes a feel-good story, a green storytelling strategy that you can use in your marketing. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up some other questions that have popped up. So one, it looks like, why should my business adopt zero waste practices? Okay, so embracing zero waste practices can reduce your costs, improve resource efficiency, enhance your brand's sustainability image, and can also contribute to environmental conservation. So uh, one thing that I always like to say is how we get back to that, the two sides of the coin. Now with this coin that I'm talking about is the green coin. So one side is the environmental protection piece of it that some will align with and relate to on an emotional level. But on the other side of the green coin, there's the economic piece. So it's not just about driving your sustainability, it's about keeping materials local in the local area. Currently, most businesses will have their materials hauled off, and then those processors will send it to, Mexico, or it goes to India, or maybe to China if it's clean enough. And a lot of times the materials will be transported but not kept locally. And when we can keep our materials local, that's whenever we start to see the build out of mom and pop compost operations starting to spring up that get maybe city contracts to handle all the food waste that's coming in. Maybe we'll see a local recycler who can handle hard to recycle items like e-waste, right? Suzanne, you were just talking about electronic waste recycling, and that stuff is full of toxins like lead, mercury, and arsenic. So keeping that out of landfills is a good thing. So we're starting to see all these smaller businesses start to pop up that can handle the materials at a local level. And when we have local processors and recyclers and composters, then we start to see more job growth. So you've heard of white collar jobs, you've heard of blue collar jobs, but these are more along the lines of green collar jobs, and they are well paying with dignity. Your trash hauler and the trash guy that comes by and scoops up your bin off the curb is not just the trash guy. They have a critical piece in our global society of sanitation and keeping the public health secure. So making sure that, even with the global pandemic during COVID, trash haulers were absolutely critical in securing PPE that was discarded from businesses, and PPE that was discarded from employees that worked at those businesses as well, and keeping the containment as best as possible. So they were really part of the hero generation around the COVID pandemic. In my mind, were the waste workers. And so it's zero waste should be adopted in any business because it's scalable. You can go as big as you want, or you can start as small as you want and make incremental, impactful changes that you'll eventually see that will start saving you money. When we're more efficient, we've got optimized hauler contracts, we've got right-sized agreements for the number of dumpsters on our property, the capacity of those dumpsters, and the frequency of pickup. Then you can start saving money whenever you're not paying the hauler to just simply cart air off your property anymore. So it's really about optimizing the contracts that you already have in place and taking the cost savings from the optimization and putting it into new programs. Maybe you want to expand your recycling to handle things like batteries. Maybe you want to expand your diversion programs to include food waste composting at the employee cafeteria and in the back of the house where the food prep happens. So those are just some things to think about why should I adopt zero waste practices at my business. Alrighty, so I'm going to get back to the chat here. So another question that looks like it's popped up is how can we start implementing zero waste in the business? So great question. I would begin by assessing your current waste stream. So This would begin with a waste audit, and what you can do audits in two types of ways. So the visual audit is just whenever you're going and lifting lids, you're looking internally into the bin and you're kind of just taking a visual assessment. What's in the bin? Is there any cross contamination of items that don't belong in that bin? Am I looking in the trash bin and are there recyclables? Those are missed opportunities for recycling. So you can do a visual assessment, not only in the internal bins inside of your office area or your warehouses or whatnot, but also do another assessment outdoors to see what is being transferred from the indoors out to the dumpsters that are on the property that the haulers actually come and lift up with their big trucks. And so you can do a kind of lift the lid visual inspection, and you would just write things down on your clipboard, right? What floor level you're on, what department, whatever, and just kind of track with a spreadsheet. What we like to do at Zero Waste Strategies is a full on waste audit. And I'm talking up to your elbows for 6 hours in the waste stream, whether it's recycling, trash, food waste, composting, or all three, and being able to go through with, of course, gloves and PPE, but go through and sort out. And I'm talking all the way down to the gum wrapper, y'all. We're sorting out like materials from each bag, and we're weighing and separating, cataloging them, tracking them, and eventually we can get a bigger picture of what is the recycling rate for this particular facility, or maybe this floor, or maybe this building at the campus. We can determine how much recycling was, what the composition of the entire waste stream was, what the composition of the recycling stream, the composition of the food waste stream, and we can identify the contaminants and the ratios where we'll track all the data points and we can graph those out. And then what we do is we draft a full zero waste kind of, or a full waste audit assessment. So we'll develop a report for the client and we'll show them kind of where they're doing things correctly, and then what we should improve upon. And a lot of times it comes around the point decision at the bin with confidence for the employees and whether they're making the correct decision at the bin. Sometimes it's the janitorial crew. Sometimes they'll pull the bags from the inside and they'll accidentally mix them up and whenever they go to the dumpster, and so they'll put the wrong bag in the dumpster. So sometimes the janitorial crew, which kind of plays a bit of a silent role. A lot of times they're working overnight, right? They're early in the morning before the office space opens back up so that it's clean for employees and clients that are coming through. But sometimes if they're not trained properly, that's where your bottleneck is, unfortunately. So there has to be, proper training for the janitorial crew as well, on top of the employees that staff your business. So just a couple of things to think about with doing a waste audit is having, whether you're going to do the visual or the in-depth, and then being able to track that, and then also being able to develop a report around that to show what the company is already doing well, and missed opportunities, as well as where the company wants to go if those missed opportunities were no longer missed. If they all went into the right category, where could we have gotten as a company if everything was sorted properly at the bin station indoors and not mixed and matched or mixed up by the janitorial crew potentially at the dumpster outdoors. So it helps you really identify key strategies like your training. It also helps you identify which buildings are performing best, which floors are performing best, maybe departments. And this is a great way to kind of spur that healthy competition between employees and floors and departments, buildings, even if you have a larger campus. So where you can show the tracking and hey, we're watching you. Another thing to do is to be able to take photos whenever you do that visual inspection. Just take photos of what you're finding in the bin system and send it out in an email to all your employees. Get several, and people will be able to self-identify. They'll be like, oh, I'm a major Starbucks connoisseur, and I bet one of those glass jars are mine, or one of those, Starbucks cups are mine, that ended up in the trash where it should have been recycled. I should do that a little better. Or, that's my McDonald's trash, and I accidentally put it in the recycling bin. Oops. Or I had French fries that I didn't put in the food waste composting that I should have. And people can kind of self-correct once they see the visual evidence of, oops, that was probably me. Or even if it wasn't them, they'll still internalize it and say, I need to be a little bit more careful. So I would say that doing the waste audit is the first thing that you can do. Then setting clear waste reduction expectations and goals, and promoting recycling and composting. So this really has to start with your top C-suite executives. Your CEO and your C-suite really need to get on board with this. It can't just be from the middle management's perspective, wagging their finger in an employee's face and saying, you must do this. There has to be a why behind it, and it has to be shown that the top, the top tier of the company is behind it, and it's something that's being promoted actively. So that can be through your employee intranet, it can be through newsletters, it can be through TV screens or monitors that may be up throughout the hallways and the gathering areas in your foyer, near the elevators, wherever you've got these kinds of digital displays. Even little table tents in the cafeteria, the employee cafeteria, could help and just explain what are the top 3 things that the corporate executives want to see from you whenever it comes to waste diversion and helping the company meet its sustainability goals. So I would say that, setting that clear expectation and making sure that the training is on point, that you're onboarding people, and that you've got a pledge that people can sign in their personnel policy. Yes, I will be separating my materials in the proper order, and if I'm confused about a particular piece of material that may belong in this one, may belong in this bin, and I don't know, then I'm just going to commit that when in doubt, I will throw it out and I'll just put it in the trash, as to not contaminate these other waste streams. So that's another thing, just kind of give people a little bit of an out if they're unsure, but encourage them to make those decisions at the bin, so that they're using those bins properly. And I would also encourage reusable alternatives. Ask people to bring their own stuff, or give them logoed water bottles, coffee mugs. Make sure that the kitchenette areas are stocked with reusable plates, napkins, silverware, that, condiments are in the refrigerator, and that they don't have to get the little condiment packets whenever they do a to-go order or a delivery. Because they're going to be bringing it back to the office anyway. So you should have that stuff there already. And then, of course, making it a policy that all the dishes are cleared before anybody goes home. A lot of times people will let those dishes stack up, and it becomes a bit of a bear to get through, because nobody else wants to clean up anybody else's mess, right? So I would say those are just a couple of strategies to start implementing your zero waste in your business now. And then once you've got, probably 3 months worth of good tracking data, you can go back and look at your hauler contracts to see what they actually say. And the if your capacity is too much, if you have too much dumpster space, if you have too many dumpsters, if you're getting too many pickups per week, you can ask your hauler, hey, we need a bit of fluidity in our contract so that we can negotiate new terms on this agreement, because we don't need near as much as what the hauler states we need. A lot of times the hauler will come out, they'll assess the property, and they will give you an arbitrary amount of capacity pickups and number of dumpsters. And it's important that year on year you do an analysis of what capacity and service pickup frequency you have already on the books in your contracts, and then work with the hauler to get more of a right-sized program. So that's usually a little bit further off, maybe like a 6-month or a year-long goal, because first you got to gather all the data to make your case. So those are just a couple of things that I would say could be short-term strategies, and then maybe mid-term strategies as well. Okay, let's see. See if we've got any other questions here. Ooh, a good one here. What about suppliers and partners? Yes. Very good question. Suppliers and partners and vendors, they can be, sometimes they can be a bit hard-headed, because your company may want to go one route and the suppliers and vendors may be supplying products that no longer fit your sustainability goals, and you have to do a little bit more of a concerted effort to rearrange not only the products that they are supplying for you, but the way that they're supplying them, the packaging. So I know a lot of suppliers are working with the manufacturers to see if they can do alternative packaging, or if they can reduce packaging. And we're talking the cardboard, the styrofoam inserts, the plastic wrapping, and the air pillows. And, where can we reuse this material? Styrofoam is hard to recycle. So we understand that there's a lot of complaints coming from the downstream side of the company that is taking on the products, and that they are pulling out of the boxes to put on the store shelves. Like, think of Best Buy, how much cardboard and styrofoam blocks and plastic wrap that they have to go through to put all of their computers and their TVs and the stereo sound systems on the shelves for their clients. But the company is having to absorb the cost of all that waste. And so how can the manufacturers and suppliers, vendors, do a better job further upstream is what a lot of companies are starting to ask for now. And we're starting to get it as well. We're starting to see a lot of innovations come around packaging with mycelium and reduced plastics and styrofoam alternatives as well. So and keep in mind, cardboard is highly lucrative. Corrugated cardboard, very, very lucrative when it comes to per tonnage amount. I think in New York it was $160 a ton. I think in Texas it's probably around 60, 70. But consider, if you've got a lot of cardboard coming in, you might want to lease a baler, a cardboard baler that will compress all of the cardboard and actually wrap it for you and put it in 1-ton cubes, so that you can not pay a hauler to bring it off property and process it for you, that you can find a vendor who wants your cardboard and will pay you for it. This becomes an additional revenue stream. So it's not just a cost anymore. You can start to recoup once you paid off the, either the purchase of the baling system, or, you've got enough padding to where you've paid enough off on your lease for that equipment, that you can start to realize kind of an internal profit revenue system that generates more money for your company rather than paying somebody to haul it off. It's still going to be hauled off. This way, they're just paying you for it, right? So you want to recoup those costs any way that you can. And cardboard, as well as office paper, are very lucrative at this time. I would also say aluminum and copper are kind of your given metals that are very lucrative as well. So being able to work with downstream processors that want to buy that material off of you is a really great route to finding alternative strategies and transportation methods to get that material bundled and then hauled off with some cha-ching in your pocket. So I would think also it comes with a lot of collaboration with your suppliers and your partners, and you really want to find those who share your sustainability goals and who will help you usher your company into the green hero strategy that it should be able to attain. You don't want your suppliers and vendors to be the roadblock. So you can always collaborate with them and see what they're able to do. Or if their contract comes to its expiration date, you can go ahead and do another RFP where you put out a request for proposal, or an RFQ. Some people call it request for quotes, in order to service that contract in a more sustainable way. So really putting those demands into your RFP or your RFQ is critical, so that vendor and supplier knows upfront, we have these sustainability goals. We're not wavering. Can you meet them? If not, we're going to look for another company to service this area of our business. So really encouraging responsible packaging and waste reduction throughout your entire supply chain is so critical, and being able to track those numbers as well, again, just adds to your green storytelling strategies, your tactics that you're using, right, to pull in new customers, to put more confidence, instill more confidence in your current customer base, and to recruit those top tier talents into your company to work for you, who align with their core values, align with the sustainability activities, and that they're seeing that you're not greenwashing anything, right? That you've got the stated goals, and then you've got the metrics to back them up, and that you've got transparency throughout the process as well. So people feel really good about that. And that's when they're just going to start chatting your company up to all of their circles, friends, family, acquaintances, and the like. So it's a win-win for everyone, and it makes people feel really good that they're working for a company that truly cares and is going the extra mile to accomplish these larger corporate sustainability goals. If you think about it, these companies are nestled inside of communities, and communities are made of people, and people make the businesses work, right? So we don't want to pollute our workers. So there's a lot to be said about being responsible with your proper materials management and just putting your green foot forward. It's just a little personal story. Growing up in the under the brown hazy skies and rotten egg smells of Southeast Texas, where all the oil and gas refineries are, I it's a personal experience, and one of the key drivers of why I even went into environmental sustainability as a career. And there's a very unspoken rule in that area that you don't rock the boat. So industry wants to keep operating like it has for dozens of years, and then the workers want to keep their jobs, so they're not going to say anything. They're not going to pipe up about pollution. And then the government, who's supposed to be enforcing the environmental laws, don't want to lose the business. They don't want the enforcement of regulations to drive the company to go to another state or another country. They want to keep that industry local, so that the workforce is supported. But it is a very vicious cycle unfortunately. There are some movers and shakers that don't work at the power plants who are environmental activists and who go to all the council meetings and county commissioner court hearings and all of that, and lobby at the state legislative level. So there are people from that area who will pipe up, but the majority of people are supported by that major industry, and so they're really not in a position to pipe up about the pollution. So my plea to corporations is think about the people who are working for your company, and at least in our case, people who are getting weird cancers, and just these cancer clusters that just pop up, um, you know can't be directly linked to the environmental pollution, air, water quality, soil quality, but everybody kind of just nods and like, yeah. So it's a really, really sad when people have to put their own quality of life on the line in order to just put food on the table. And the corporations either make or break an economy, right? A lot of the time. So uh, the companies really, it's incumbent upon the businesses to make sure that they're being good environmental stewards, that they're following the laws, and that the government, who are elected by the people, are there to protect the people and to stand up to big industry whenever pollution issues do occur. So, everybody just kind of operating a little bit with more of a backbone, if you will, just to straighten that spine a little bit and make sure that the community is protected, because poisoning your workers and their families is not a good business model. So um, that's just a side note from my personal experience, and why I'm so passionate about these topics. And uh, you know, going into these waste industry topics weren't necessarily my background, but it became my background about 20 years ago whenever I moved to Austin. So um, working on recycling legislation and statewide, working on recycling ordinances here in the Austin area. I helped pass 4 key pieces of recycling legislation at the local level and 2 statewide e-waste recycling bills for computers and televisions. Suzanne, that might interest you a little bit, working in the tech industry. So, getting these manufacturers to incorporate EPR, or extended producer responsibility take back, through legislation has been critical in Texas. I think we're close to 500 million pounds of e-waste saved from landfills, and it shifts the onus from the local governments and taxpayers financially onto the producers. And so they are responsible for their own waste whenever people use that program. So, that became a real passion for me, was getting those pieces of legislation passed. So I'm going to go back to the chat and see if we have any more questions popping up. Can zero waste practices enhance our brand's reputation? Yeah, absolutely. Like we had talked about with green marketing strategies, green storytelling, people trust a green brand that is proven, not greenwashed. So, and what I mean by greenwashing is that your company is saying one thing and then doing another, and that your intentions and activities do not align. And so it's really embarrassing and becomes a total PR nightmare whenever your company has been outed, outed on social media and pretty much canceled by society, right? Especially your Gen Xers, or I'm Gen X, excuse me, your Gen Zers, or your Zoomers, that like to be called Zoomers, or even your Gen Alpha, who is now learning how to use social media, and they're being raised in a much more tech savvy environment than good old Gen X, or the Boomer generation. So they get it. They will not, absolutely will not accept any greenwashing. They want to see companies and brands going above and beyond to protect the environment, to establish social justice within their industry, and to to bring about well-paying green jobs. That's what they want to see. And those are your next kind of boom of consumers, right? There's a whole new wave of consumers coming up in your Gen Z Zoomers and your Gen Alphas. These Gen Alphas, the oldest ones, are probably just now getting their first summer job out of school. So they're starting to learn about money, and they're starting to learn about the things that they like to purchase. So they're starting to understand also how brand reputation can influence their purchasing decisions. So why not be the front runner in your industry of green branding, and make sure that you've got the metrics and the data and all the transparency to back it up, so that they can just go on your website and they can look through your CSR, your corporate sustainability report that you put out every year, and if they see what they like, and they do a little bit more investigating, maybe they could become a very loyal customer. So and remember, customer loyalty a lot of times will last for life and is generational. So think about the McDonald's brand, right? We referenced that a little bit earlier, but the kid meal, and bringing up the next generation with a meal that is catered specifically to the children. They remember that. They get a little older, they repeat the same process with their kids. So if you can become a generational green brand, that is money in the bank. And starting that now is really critical if you haven't already. So it's important to get those decision makers and the people who hold the purse strings within your organization or your company on board by showing the economic benefits and showing what the long-term projections may be regarding customer loyalty, and what could happen if customers start to fall off because your brand may have been tarnished by greenwashing. So it's important to put the programs in place, but make sure that they actually work and that they're successful, that you can report the data and the analytics and the numbers out, and that you can be highly transparent with it and use it in your green marketing. All right. Any other questions from folks in the audience? All righty. Well, I think what we're going to do is wrap here, and I want to thank you all for joining. We do these live sessions every 2 weeks, and I will send out the recording of this particular live to whoever joined us. And if you do want a recording of it, go ahead and just email me if you're watching this, because I will post it on all of our social media channels. And if you do finally get to the end of this recording and you do want the recording, I will go ahead and email over the link to you. You just got to reach out to me. So again, oh, I forgot to put in my personal LinkedIn account. There we go, the profile there. So if you want to connect with me, please do. In the from the chat, there's a link in the chat. But and then again, go ahead and visit our business page, Zero Waste Strategies. So with that, I will make an offer that we have an 8-week online training program called the Cash for Trash Zero Waste Business Program, where we will help your management teams go through the zero waste basics, teach you about how to deal with food waste and what are the best kind of highest and best uses of food materials and keeping that out of landfill, how to engage your employees with fun, engaging training sessions, as well as games, pop quizzes, everything that we can do to keep it on the front of mind and actually make it stick so that behaviors do change there on site in your building. And we offer, weekly support calls, group support calls, where we're addressing your specific industry issues there on site. Maybe you've got compliance issues. You need to comply with the local ordinance that just came into effect. We're going to help you do that. There's all sorts of benefits to joining the Cash for Trash Zero Waste Business Program, so that we can hold you by the hand and we can usher and do kind of a customized plan for you so that you can feel supported and valued and heard, and that you can bring these plans to the executives who may need to review that in order to expand your programs, get more training in place for your employees and your janitorial crew. And this way, it's just kind of a one-stop shop for all your zero waste needs. So if you're interested in joining our 8-week online program, go ahead and message me. You can also call us at 512-693-7677 if that is a better avenue for communication for you. But either way, we'd love to have you join us. And if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me, DM me on my LinkedIn profile, or you can visit our website, which is zerowaste.org. It's just the number 0, waste.org. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this live. Thank you all for joining so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.